and members. I rise in support of ACA 5 and hope that we can put to the voters the opportunity to join 42 other states in allowing for affirmative action once again. And especially if we look at the last few weeks in particular, if we're going to stand with our black sisters and brothers in the streets and claim that Black Lives Matter, we can't just do that with words. We actually have to take concrete steps that actually can prove that we mean it. If we're going to be marching with women or lamenting the gender pay gap, we can't simply just throw our hands up and accept for a fact that that's just the way it is in our country or in our state. If we're going to mourn the stains on our history, like the Chinese Exclusion Act or Japanese internment, we have to understand the context under which those horrors occurred. Or if we're going to celebrate the first Asian American, Sikh American, Indian American Congress member, Dalip Singh Sand, we have to remember that back in the 50s and 60s, he was a fierce supporter of the 1957 Civil Rights Act. He was a strong supporter of Mexican immigrants and farm workers. And he worked to draft a constitutional amendment declaring the equality of the rights of men and women. What he knew 60 years ago is what we still know today, that we have to be intentional in rooting out racism and sexism. This is not about legalizing racism and sexism, as one of our colleagues said. It's actually quite the opposite. It's about recognizing that racism and sexism exist, and it's our duty to do whatever we can to root it out. Now, my family came here in 1978. We would not have been able to come here if it wasn't for the civil rights movement, and that's a fact. And we can count many, many thousands of families, API families, with that same scenario, that if it wasn't for those that gave their life, gave their blood in the civil rights movement, we wouldn't be here. So the fact that this country was founded and became a global superpower on the foundation of stolen land and stolen labor is not a matter that is relegated to chapters in dusty history books. It actually runs through the veins of our nation to this day and through all of us. We must acknowledge the reality that race matters. And that the longer we deny it and the longer we take action on it, the longer it's going to take for us to reach the promise of our great nation. We have to recognize the reality that gender matters, and we need to be honest and intentional in that realization so that we may someday have true equal opportunity for women. And as other colleagues have said, the data is voluminous. It's as clear as day that we have in our society, by no fault of any individual, but just based upon our common shared history, we have barriers that are put up strictly because of one's gender and race. And right now, what we're seeing around the world are millions of people rising up because they know not only that it's wrong, but they want us to do something about it. And so we had the opportunity to allow the voters to get it right and to stand up for racial justice, for gender justice, to stand up for equality and what words on paper deem us to be as Americans. We need to keep fighting for it. And I urge you to vote aye on ACA 5 so we can fight together.